Hey guys, so the drugstore is just killing it lately. So many new products coming out, I can hardly keep up. I think this is my third drugstore video in a week, but I have brand new stuff from LA Girl and also from Catrice. And to be honest, the last two drugstore videos didn't impress me all that much. The new Wet n Wild stuff, there were a couple hits, but for the most part, I was pretty disappointed. Same thing with the new Essence stuff that I tried, but I'm very hopeful for today's video. All of this stuff looks really good, and I generally have a good experience with Catrice and LA Girl. Also, if you're new here and you like saving money on makeup, you like drugstore products with a little bit of high-end mixed in, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and also all of my videos are completely unsponsored. So if that sounds good, let's go ahead and jump right in and get started. Okay, so first up, we have some new things from Catrice, some new complexion products. First up is their Soft Glam Filter Fluid. So this might look very familiar. It looks very similar to the e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid Filter and the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. They all have filter in the name. They all come in really similar packaging. So this is yet another Charlotte Tilbury dupe. I got mine in two shades because I really wasn't sure what color would be best for me. So I have Fair Light and I have Light. And I think I actually prefer Light on my skin tone. I think the Fair Light one looks a little bit more yellowy and the Light is a little bit more of a pink undertone. It's a little bit cooler. And basically these say that they're a glow boosting face fluid with sheer coverage, optical filter effect for a softened, perfected, and radiant complexion. You can wear them alone, under makeup. You can kind of use it on top of your makeup like as a liquid highlighter, but it's pretty subtle for the most part. So I think what I'm going to do today, because I am also going to be testing out the new Catrice Tinted Serum Foundation, I'm going to put this just on one side of my face because I don't want the glow that this gives to kind of mess with the finish of the foundation. I really want to see what the foundation looks like by itself and then also on top of this. So I'm just gonna put a couple of dots. I'm gonna do like just one half of my face. I'm really curious to see how this compares to the e.l.f. one. And so far, I think the texture feels very similar. It's a little bit of a thicker serum kind of texture. And I do think this has a little bit less glow than the Charlotte Tilbury one right off the bat. That more subtle glow doesn't seem to enhance the texture or the pores on my skin quite as much as something a little bit glowier. So I do like that it's just really natural and it feels super hydrating on my skin. It's also worth noting that this one is made in France while the e.l.f. is made in China. And I know I always get comments about where products are made. So if that's important to you, that's also something else to consider. So let's move on to their Tinted Serum Foundation. This has hyaluronic acid and vitamin E, and I have mine in the shade 4N. And the description says that this is their most lightweight, caring foundation, that it's a serum formula that offers buildable, light to medium coverage for a long-lasting, radiant complexion. It's supposed to have a feathery light, breathable formula, and it's supposed to provide 24 hours of hydration, and it's also alcohol-free. So if you watched my Wet n Wild Serum Foundation video, I just talked about this a couple days ago. I mentioned in the video that it was alcohol-free, but somehow I missed it in the ingredient list. It actually does contain alcohol. It's further down on the list than some other skin tints like the L'Oreal one and the Maybelline one. I felt like the Wet n Wild one wasn't quite as drying as those, but I still didn't like the way it looked on my skin at the end of the night, and now it completely makes sense. And I want to thank one of my viewers for pointing that out because, like I said, somehow I missed it in the ingredient list. But this one actually says that it is alcohol free, so I have a good feeling about this one. I think I'm gonna like it, I hope. So far, the drugstore skin tints haven't done anything for me. The only thing is I think this shade might be a little bit too light. I probably should have gone up. It's just so hard when you're ordering online to know. So that's kind of one thing I have to consider too, because when foundations are too light, I feel like they enhance textures and pores and all of that a little bit more than they normally would. So I'm really hoping this one looks okay. So I'm just kind of smoothing this on with my fingers because it really is very feather light. It doesn't feel like anything. It really just feels like I'm applying skincare. And it has better coverage than I was thinking it was going to. Right off the start, I can say it is more of a light to medium, and to get a medium coverage out of a skin tint is pretty good. I'd probably have to build it up a little bit to get the full medium, but this is not one of those super sheer products that just looks like a tinted moisturizer. It's actually, I mean, I think you can see right away. it's giving pretty good coverage. So that's definitely exciting. And this is over the Soft Glam filter on this side. So now we're just gonna do it over bare skin over here. I just love how easily this smooths over my skin, and it's really sinking right in, kind of like the new CoverGirl Essence foundation, which I also really like. It's just so thin, I think you don't have to worry about it sitting on top like a heavy foundation would. It just feels like it becomes one with your skin, which I really like. All right, so just doing a quick check in the mirror. I don't know that I love this. Let me zoom you guys in. I'll show you a little closer. Okay, so I hope you can see this on camera, but it's grabbing right here in between my eyebrows. It looks kind of flaky, which is weird because I just exfoliated my skin this morning. And those of you who have watched my skincare videos, like, you know how much I'm into my layering, my super hydrating skincare. I make sure that my skin always is really super dewy and plump, and this should definitely not be happening. Also on my chin, it's doing the exact same thing. It's kind of grabbing. It looks really dry, and it's settling into the fine lines right over my lip. And I just feel like in general, even on my cheek area, it looks a little bit makeup-y. So I'm gonna give it a little while to kind of settle in. But the fact that it's grabbing and looking dry in between my eyebrows and on my nose and chin is kind of a bad sign. So anyway, let's move on to brows. They have some new brow products that I'm really excited about. The first one is called Brow Perfect, and it's their Extreme Hold Styling Gel. So I have this in the shade Clear. I'm pretty sure that's the only color that it comes in. And it says that it has glycerin to keep brows in shape and maintain hold. And it has a really funky looking brush. It has kind of some spiky bristles on the tip. So this looks really cool. I'm excited to try it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start brushing my brows upward. It feels like a very soft gel. It's not super wet. So I know a lot of times, like when you go to apply a brow gel, you can kind of feel how wet it is right away. But with this one, it has a softer, almost like waxy kind of a feel. And I actually like these little spiky bristles. I think you can kind of turn the brush on its head and just start combing through any areas that you want to be a little bit more defined. I just hope that it holds throughout the day, because sometimes like these waxier formulas don't hold up like the gel ones do. Like they don't freeze your brows in place. So I'm hoping for the best. Next we have the Brow Ink Micro Brush Detailer Pen. So as you guys know, I'm really into my brow pens. I use the NYX brow pen on an everyday basis. I like them more than a brow pencil these days. And this one is in the shade Soft Brown. It says that it gives hair-like strokes and detailed and precise definition. And unfortunately, I'm just kind of swatching this on my hand. It's very warm toned, which is a bummer because I have very ashy, cool tone brows, and the NYX pen in the shade Ash Brown is like my holy grail. I mean, if you compare that color to this one, it's so much cooler toned and it's the exact color of my brows. And it's so hard to find that in most other brow products. Most of them are way too warm for me. I am still gonna try this, but I just know that the color isn't gonna be quite right, but hopefully it's not too bad and we can make it work. So yeah, I can definitely see like where I'm putting the pen versus where my hair is. It almost looks like I'm giving my brows highlights because I can see like these lighter brown strokes kind of mixed in with the darker hairs. But I have to say, I like this formula a lot. It's not thick and gloppy, and sometimes the NYX pen is fine, and then other times I go to use it and too much product comes out, and I'm not sure why that happens because it's not every single day that it does that. But this one, I like how subtle it is, and I think the tip is even a little bit finer than the NYX one. So when you're drawing the hairs, they just look really natural. I mean, I love how this is actually performing. So I'm thinking I want to go back and take a look at the shades again, and maybe I can find one that works for me, or if you can find one that works for you, if you have warmer brows, I would definitely consider giving this one a try because this has been very, very easy to use. All right, let's talk about eyeshadow. I saw this new palette on the Ulta website, and they have some other palettes that actually look beautiful, but for some reason they haven't come into stock yet. They say they're out of stock, and it's been that way now for a few weeks. So I'm not sure what's going on with those, but this one actually did come in stock this past Sunday. So I jumped at the chance chance to get it, and it's actually larger than I thought it was going to be on the website. It's called Desert Glow Envy, and this is just such a beautiful color story. I really love the sort of duochromy shades that are in here, and the mix of the greens and turquoise with the purples and pinks. I just think it's gorgeous, and I generally love LA Girl's formula too. It's usually really great. So I'm definitely excited for this one. I have my eye on this green shade, but I think because I'm wearing like some purple in my sweater, I'm probably gonna stick to the purple shades. But actually just swatching these are hardly picking up at all. They feel like toppers, but they are so sheer. I'm not really getting any color payoff. I'm starting to feel really bummed. I'm just checking the other shades because LA Girl is one of my favorite shimmer formulas at the drugstore. They're normally like really, really pigmented, nice metallic foiled shimmer shades, and literally every one that I try to pick up in this palette is so sheer. It's hardly even showing up at all. That is really bumming me out right now. All right, so I think I'm gonna start with this light pink shade, and I'm gonna put this one in my crease first. So I'm just gonna work this back and forth, and I mean, this shade is actually showing up beautifully. It picked up really well on the brush. There's not a ton of fallout. It's showing up nicely for a pastel shade, which is really great. I'm hoping that I can make those toppers work if I add maybe like a little bit of glitter glue or something. It might help them to become a little more pigmented. We'll see, but so far I think this shade is applying really well. Next, what color do I want to use? See, this is the other kind of issue that I'm having with this palette now that I'm looking at it a little bit more closely. All of the matte shades that I would want to use, like some of these deeper ones, they're mostly very warm toned overall. I think this brown down here is probably the coolest, but even this one, I think it's like a little bit warm. I think I'm going to try this shade next. It's kind of like a rosy brown, so I'm hoping maybe that'll go with the pinks and purples a little bit more. I'm just going to start blending this in the outer corner. Yeah, I mean, it looks very warm, and I was hoping for more of a cool tone look. This is sort of the trouble that I ran into over the holidays with that palette from Charlotte Tilbury, the Beautyverse one. I felt like all the shimmer shades looked really soft and ethereal and cool toned with the blue and the pinks, and then all of the matte shades were these really warm browns that didn't seem like they really went together. And I was also disappointed in the formula of that palette too when it came to the shimmers, because they were those toppers that hardly picked up at all, and they really didn't make any kind of impact on my eyes. So I actually decluttered that one. But otherwise, I can't complain about the mattes in this palette. I think they are blending really nicely. They have a good amount of pigmentation. And like I said, they're not super powdery. They don't have a lot of fallout, which I definitely appreciate. Next up, I want to use this purple shade right here, but I just want to quickly show you what happens when I try to pick this up, okay? So I'm picking it up on my finger. I really was digging into the pan, and then I'm just gonna try to swatch it on my hand, and it literally does nothing. Like, it's hardly there. So I'm gonna put a little bit of the NYX glitter primer on my lid, and we'll just see if that helps to kind of bring that purple out a little bit, but I don't have high hopes for this, unfortunately. All right, so with a little bit of the glitter glue still on my finger, I'm gonna try to pick up the shade, and hopefully that'll help it to grip to my finger a little bit better. And I'm just gonna start pressing this onto my lid. It's basically just a wash of purple glitter. Like, there's really no base color to it. If there is, it's very, very subtle. So yeah, I mean, with the glitter primer, I was able to get it to show up a little bit, but I'm gonna say right now, if you're not a fan of sheer topper shades, don't buy this palette. And even if you are, I think, you know, as far as toppers go, this one, it just doesn't make a whole lot of impact unless you use a glitter primer, and then it just kind of barely shows up. So it's just something to think about, but I'm also getting a little bit of glitter fallout even with the primer. I'm seeing some just kind of landing underneath my eyes here. So I don't love that, but at the same time, I think this look came out okay. Like, I'm disappointed that the shimmer shades didn't make more impact, but at the same time, not every eye look has to make a huge, bold impact. If you want something that's a little bit more subtle, I feel like this purple shade is really pretty, but you need a glitter primer or something to help it stick, because when I was trying to swatch it, it's like nothing came out at all. So I feel like if you don't have a glitter primer like this, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult to work with this palette. I'm just gonna quickly apply a little bit of black liquid liner. This is the KVD tattoo liner. And because I don't have a new mascara today, I'm just going to be using the e.l.f. Lash Extender Tubing Mascara, which really has become one of my favorites. I love the way that this makes my lashes look. All right, let's move on to face products, and I have a new blush, bronzer, and highlighter, also from the LA Girl Glow Envy line. And these are called like the Bouncy Bronzer and the Bouncy Blush and Highlighter. So these sound really fun. Remember the Maybelline Bouncy Blush from the drugstore like years and years ago? I think that product would do really well now. It didn't so much back then, but I thought it was a pretty innovative product for its time. So anyway, the Sunkissed Bouncy Bronzer only comes in one color called Sunkissed Glow, and it claims to be a lightweight, airy mousse formula with a gel to powder formulation that has a bouncy texture that melts into the skin with a weightless formula that's infused with a blend of multidimensional pearls and reflective pigments. On the back of the bronzer, it says to swirl your fingers into it and apply it with your fingers. I don't think I've ever done that with a bronzer before, and I don't even know how that would work. So I'm gonna use my BK Beauty 107 brush. This is kind of my universal brush that I use for complexion products. So bronzers, blushes, whether it's cream or powder, I feel like it works really great for both. So I'm just gonna pick a little bit of this up and we'll kind of see how this applies. Oh, it's actually very pigmented. So I'm not gonna pick up any more. I'm just gonna try to blend this out a little. I think I might have put a little bit too much, but I love the feel of this. Wow, it is super airy. It actually feels like a powder going on rather than a cream, but there's none of that powdery kick up or like a powdery look to the skin. It just really does melt in. That is nice. Also, even though it claimed to have these multidimensional pearls, I don't feel like it's adding much of a glow. It just looks really flawless, and I love the color. I wasn't sure because it looks a little bit warm in the pan, but I think it's working out well. I feel like it almost has a slightly reddish undertone, which is what I usually love in a bronzer. So next we have the Glow Envy Bouncy Blush, and it says dreamy, airy texture meets vibrant, buildable color. It's designed to take your cheek game to the next level, offering a flawless, natural flush with every application, and a gel to powder formulation that has bouncy texture that melts into the skin. So this color looks beautiful. It's kind of like a pinky coral, and I think it's going to be a gorgeous shade for summer. So let's see how this applies. Yeah, it's going on the exact same way as the bronzer, just effortlessly melting into your skin. You hardly have to blend it at all. And this color is gorgeous. I'm just building it up a little bit more in a second layer, but it's so silky and it actually feels like it's making my skin smoother where I put it, which is really interesting. I'm already a huge fan of this Bounce formula, if you couldn't tell. I just love how thin it is. I don't really have many other cream blushes that feel this weightless and just blend like nothing. It's amazing. Then I also have the Glow Envy Bouncy Highlighter. This one cracked, unfortunately, in transit, thanks to Ulta and their always amazing packing job that they do at their warehouse, but I'm actually surprised that the palette survived. So this one also just comes in the one shade. It's called Natural Glow, and it says it's the secret to radiant lit from within beauty. It's an airy mousse formula, and again, it blends effortlessly into the skin, leaving a soft, velvety finish with the gel powder formulation with a bouncy texture. So I'm just gonna pick this up on a smaller, denser brush. This is the BK Beauty 110 brush. And I'm just gonna see how this applies. If it doesn't work with a brush, I might just go in with my fingers for the highlighter, but oh yeah, it works really well. This one I think is a little bit more glittery than the other two. I didn't feel like the blush or bronzer really had any radiance to them, but this one has very obvious glitter particles. So I'm not really a big fan of that. I was hoping it would be kind of like a smooth highlight. Looking in the mirror, I can just see like specks of glitter all over my face, which I guess kind of makes sense if this is like a festival collection, but it's not really my favorite look like for an everyday kind of highlighter situation. But either way, the blush and bronzer were gorgeous. I highly recommend grabbing those when you can. LA Girl also has these new sheer tint lip balms that look really good. So I got all 4 shades to try, and these are $5.99 each. And they claim to be the perfect blend of hydration and a hint of color with a lip loving formula that's designed to give your lips soft, smooth, and subtle tint. They have shea butter, avocado oil, sunflower oil, and vitamin E, and they're supposed to visibly improve the condition of your lips. So I figured we would just try on all the colors today and see what they look like. So I guess we'll just start with the lightest shade called Sheer Pink, and these have like a watermelon scent to them. They actually smell really good. So let's see. This feels really silky, Very, very balmy. It's actually like a very melty texture, similar to the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Balms. Not the plumping ones, just the regular ones. This doesn't have any kind of tingle to it, but this one is sheer pink. It's just a really subtle pink shade. And then next up we have Sheer Rose. I love this one too. It's a really nice cool tone pink. Next up we have Sheer Peach, which honestly there's nothing sheer about this. It's kind of like more of a bright orange, but it's pretty. The last one is Sheer Nude, and I really like the kind of rosy brown tone that this one has. I think as far as tinted lip balms go, sometimes they're not always the most hydrating because they're focused more on the color and they just give a little bit of hydration. But with these, they really truly feel like a super ultra nourishing lip balm. They feel really good. So I'm just gonna quickly finish doing my hair and I'll come back and we'll take just a final look at everything. All right guys, I'm back. So here's the finished look. And I mean, I think again, we have some big hits and misses here. I hate the way the foundation is looking on my chin and kind of like just the middle of my face right here. It's just breaking up and looking patchy immediately. So I don't even wanna know what it's gonna look like in the middle of the day, but I'm gonna do a wear test so we'll be able to see that. I absolutely love the blush and bronzer. I think the highlighter is a little bit too glittery for my personal preference. As far as the lip product, I did notice when I'm curling my hair that it has a little bit of a cooling sensation. I didn't notice that when I first put it on, but as I'm wearing it, it's not a tingle, it just feels a little bit cooling. So there might be maybe some menthol in the formula. I'm not sure, I haven't looked at the ingredients, but it's not anything that bothers me. And it just feels so creamy and super hydrating. Like I said, probably one of the most hydrating tinted lip balms that I've ever felt. So I think these are gonna be a really great option for dry lips. And then as far as brows go, I feel like the gel is holding them up really well, kind of surprising me, but we'll have to see how it works throughout the day. And you know, the color of the brow pen wasn't ideal, but I also really liked the formula of that. As far as the eyeshadow goes, I love the way that the matte's applied, and even the topper shade, I mean, it kind of surprised me. Over the glitter primer, it actually is very pretty. It's a little bit more of a subtle look, but I actually do like the way that it came out. And then as far as like the soft glam filter, I don't really notice much of a difference between the two sides of my face. I don't feel like this side is really any glowier than this side. So it's an extremely subtle product. If you're wearing it under makeup, I don't know how much you're gonna really see unless you're wearing something super sheer on top of it. So anyway, I'm gonna go about the rest of my day. I'll check in with you guys later on tonight, and I'll try to just take some quick footage in the middle of the day outside so we can see what the foundation looks like. I don't have high hopes for it, but we'll see. So I'll see you guys back here later tonight. What's up guys? It's about 8:30 p.m. and I have some thoughts on these products. So let's start out with the two Catrice Complexion products first. We have the Soft Glam Filter Fluid. So like I said a little bit earlier on, I don't really see a difference between where I put this and where I didn't. I feel like once I put foundation on, I couldn't tell. So I think with this, to actually make a difference in your face, you're gonna have to use something extremely light or just use this as your complexion product, but it really doesn't show through anything with more than like a sheer coverage, I would say. And just quickly, I want to show you a comparison between this, and I also swatched next to it the e.l.f. Halo Glow filter and then the Charlotte Tilbury one, just so you can get a good idea of what these really look like next to each other. And I do think that the e.l.f. and the Charlotte Tilbury are a little bit thicker and more pigmented. You can kind of see in the swatches that the Catrice ones just look a little bit thinner and runnier in texture. And then once I actually patted them into the skin and blended them in a little bit more, you can also see that both the e.l.f. and the Charlotte Tilbury have a bit more glow to them. I would say the Charlotte Tilbury one has the most glow, followed by the e.l.f. And then the Catrice almost dry down more of a satiny finish versus even glowy. So again, I don't feel like this is gonna be a product that you're gonna wear under foundation. If anything, it would just be something to wear by itself, just as a really sheer tint. Because it doesn't have as much glow as the Charlotte Tilbury, it's not gonna be as texture enhancing as that formula. With that one, I do usually wanna cover it with a foundation or something and just let a little glow peek through, because if I wear it alone, skin, it's too much for me. But this one, I think on its own would really be just fine. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on this one. And also the tinted serum. I have to say, I mean, I've kind of made it known throughout the video. I didn't like this when I first applied it. I still don't like it. I'll show you quickly just a clip of what it looked like in the car. And all of those trouble spots that I mentioned before, like between my eyebrows, on my nose, my cheeks, my chin, like everything just looks very patchy, making my skin look dry where there wasn't any dry skin before. And I'm surprised because this formula doesn't have the alcohol, so I'm not quite sure where this dryness is coming from, but it doesn't look good. I mean, maybe from far away it does. Like if I stand maybe 4 to 6 feet back from the mirror, it looks all right. And then as I get closer, I start to notice all of that patchiness and the dryness. Just quickly, I also want to address why I don't use powder when I do foundation reviews, because there have been a couple people saying, you know, if I'm not using powder, that could be the reason that the foundations aren't wearing well. And because I have very dry skin, I've never really been somebody who uses powder, because in the traditional sense, you're using a powder basically to mattify the skin and also to help soak up excess oil, because the oils can break down your foundation throughout the day. But my skin is so dry, I don't really have the oil coming up to the surface to break up my foundations, and I've never had issues with that. So my fear is if I'm testing out a foundation and I put some powder on and it makes it look dry, I don't want to tell you this foundation looks dry, because it could be the powder that's doing it. So I really just want to give you a look at what the foundation looks like and wears like alone. And then if it did happen to break down on me for some reason, then you could say, all right, maybe add a powder and it'll be better. I just like to approach foundation reviews in the way that I would normally wear the foundation, and generally that means no powder. That could differ if I'm wearing something that's really sticky and dewy and I want to, like, let's say apply a powder blush to my cheeks, then I'll use powder because I want to obviously like mattify that so that I can apply a powder product. For example, today I was using cream products all over my face, so again, I wasn't really gonna apply that powder on top. But anyway, this is yet another failed drugstore skin tint. Sometimes I just feel like I'm not cut out for these, or maybe they're for younger skin and people who have less texture. I don't know. It just seems like none of them suit me, whether they have alcohol or they don't. So unfortunately, both Catrice products were kind of duds for me this time around. When it comes to the brow products though, I'm really impressed with this brow gel. It held my brows in place all day. I mean, they still are up and perfect, and they don't feel stiff or crunchy. I really am kind of amazed, and I really liked the brush on here because I felt like I could really sculpt them and get a really defined look. And then as far as the brow pen, it's funny because as I was applying it, I'm like, this is too light, it's too warm, it's not gonna go with my brows. But then I started editing the first part of the video during the day today while I was waiting to come back and film this. And as I'm watching on camera, I was like, you know, it is lighter than my normal brow color would be, but as I joked earlier in the video and I talked about like kind of adding highlights to my brows like I do to my hair, my brows kind of look the same color as my hair. They really match, and normally my brows look darker than my hair. So I think adding this little color in kind of somehow complements it in a weird way. So I thought that was kind of funny, but I do really love this formula. And I think if I am looking for something a little bit darker, I might just try a different color, but I just felt like this was so easy to control. It's a much thinner pen than the NYX one, and I noticed that when I was doing the swatches of the NYX pen next to this, that the lines were a lot thicker with that one than they are with this. It just gives you a really fine hair-like stroke with this, so I like it. When it comes to the eyeshadow palette, I feel like the shadow held up pretty well. The mattes still look good. I do think that the glittery topper shade faded a little bit. When I look close up at it, it's really just like a wash of purple glitter at this point. And while the look did come out okay, I don't really see myself reaching for this palette very often because it is glittery, and I did have some glitter fall out under my eyes, which is the reason why I normally avoid glitter. And obviously for any of you who don't like a topper formula, pretty much every shimmer shade in this palette is a topper. So I have kind of mixed feelings about this, and it's not their usual formula. So I was a little bit disappointed. And then when it comes to the blush and bronzer, I love these. And I still think the bronzer is holding up really well. I still see the blush. I think there was maybe like a little bit of fading since this morning, but it's not bad. I think the Bouncy formula is just so smooth and so easy to control. So I really love these. I think these were some of the best things that I tried today. And the Bouncy highlighter though, I wasn't really a fan of. I thought it was way too glittery. And especially when I went outside, I definitely saw like all those little glitter particles everywhere. So unless you love a glittery highlight, I would probably skip this one. And then when it comes to the lip balms, I actually really like these too. And if you're somebody who doesn't like that cooling menthol sensation, then again, you're probably going to want to skip them. Or if you don't like watermelon scented products, although I only smell the watermelon when I'm putting them on, and then after that, I don't smell it at all. But I do notice just how these make my lips feel really soft and kind of pillowy. They're incredibly balmy and nourishing. So I do love the formula a lot. And I thought all of the colors were also really pretty. So I think that's everything that I tried today. Again, very hit or miss from the drugstore, but I feel like that's kind of the way it always is. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on these products down below. And if you've tried any of them, definitely let us know your thoughts as well, because I'm just one person. So some of your opinions on these products might definitely differ from mine. I always love to hear that. And if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you have some extra time and you'd like to watch another one of my videos, I'll just put something right up here for you to check out next. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care, guys. Bye.